Hey guys, it's Rachel. It is Thankful Thursday. This is getting up a little bit late. Excuse the face and the hair and the how I'm dressed. I've been in bed all day. I'm still not completely well, which is really doing my head in because I've been ill since like July with gastroenteritis, and then I had bronchitis, and I'm still kind of recovering from it, and I'm just constantly tired. And I'm supposed to be revising for an exam, which is not going very well. So I spent the whole day in bed, and then I realised it was like Thursday evening, and I was like, shit, I need to make a video. So this week we are looking at coping mechanisms. Now, I'm pretty sure it's a video that we've probably done many times over. It's probably a video that I've made quite a few times over. And what this week, the idea behind this week is to try and think about it in a different way. Anybody can give us a list of coping mechanisms, and they use coping mechanisms can be for eating disorder behaviours or self-injury or drink or drugs or whatever, and obviously all of those issues need to be treated in a sort of different way according to, you know, the struggles that you're having. And obviously the channel's dedicated to kind of eating disorders, so that's what I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to try and have a think about things that really help me. And you know, I do facilitate a self-help group as well for people with eating disorders, and I was going to try and have a think about some of those things as well. My best advice in terms of coping mechanisms is to access as many as you can. I was going to say ask, but I know a lot of people they're the only ones who know that they're having the problems, so they are the only ones who, you know, it's very private, it's very secret that they have an eating disorder. It isn't something that they talk about with other people, and so asking other people, you know, for help can be very, very difficult. So maybe some of the ideas that I have won't necessarily work for you, but did work for me. And the biggest one I kind of say to people is to just take yourself out of the situation. So even if you're not at a point of being able to identify how you're feeling, even if the only thing you're feeling is this absolute hatred towards yourself and this just horrible feeling of feeling fat and worthless and awful, something's triggered you to want you to binge and purge, something's you know, it is you've eaten dinner, you've been trying to follow a meal plan and you're absolutely freaking out, is just to get yourself out of the situation. I'm going to actually give you some examples of what some of the girls in the group do, and I hope they don't mind that, but I think they'll be okay with it. One means of coping is, of course, please don't do this if, you know, you are in a really, really bad way or have been drinking or what have you, but she used to, or still does, get in her car and just drive, and she would just drive up and down the motorway, okay, and she would put Lady Gaga on, of course, and she would just drive and drive and drive until those overwhelming and incredibly tense feelings, they don't go but had eased, okay. Another one is having a set route that you would walk, okay. So you get your iPod, you put your earphones in, and you say you have a known route where you walk, okay. You have to make sure you're safe, okay. So if it's later in the evening, please make sure you're safe. But say, right, I'm going to go from here to here to here, and I'm going to put my music in, and even if you walk at 1,000,000 miles an hour, obviously, I don't want to over-advocate exercise if people are really struggling with their eating disorder. But at the end of the day, I would rather you go and sort of said, right, for 15 minutes, I'm going to do this walk that I normally do, and listen to some music and just try and take that focus away. These are things that I am advising you to do if you're very caught up in an emotional state. So if your feelings are just, you're just kind of bursting at the rim, basically. I don't have much experience, if any, with regards to binging and purging. So I'm pretty sure that some of the other girls are going to touch on that. My biggest problems with my recovery were obviously with eating, and when I'd had a meal and dealing with the anxiety and the urges to purge after eating, the urge to exercise after eating. And fortunately for me, I have a very supportive family, and my mum would stay with me, and it would absolutely do my head in. Or she would say, right, if you go up to your room, or, you know, keep your door open. And as time passed, she learned to trust me more. There were times when I used behaviours and lied to her, you know, but there were other times when I used behaviours and was honest with her. And what you need to start to do is, if you really want to do this, is you will find ways to cope. And that's really what I learned. I learned to engage in activities that took my head somewhere else. Okay, box sets, right? And I would watch box sets, and I would buy a whole season of, name something, 24, and it would just keep me occupied because it was so addictive, and I would just watch and watch and watch and watch. So that was something that actually worked for me, and I know that there's quite a few other people who are the same. And having watched sort of something like that, it was something that, say, if I'd had a meal, I could go back to. I could be having that before the meal. Sometimes it's difficult to talk to people, but maybe by going online afterwards, distracting yourself with something, chatting to a friend, you know, when it's over the internet, it's sometimes easier than having to talk to somebody. You don't have to talk about your issues, you can just talk crap. That's something that really used to help me. I used to just kind of go to my computer and just kind of type away, and kind of find out what was going on for people. Another thing I used to do, if I was in a more kind of calm place, when I was refeeding, everything was very structured, because obviously I needed to eat at certain times. I had to have my 3 meals a day and kind of snacks and stuff like that. Is that I would have a sort of plan for the day. So it didn't mean I could always stick to it, but that you have to remember that I was very restrictive in my nature with my eating disorder. And so for me, that structure did help because it felt very contained. And it was only later in my recovery that I had to challenge that. But I would say, you know, I had to be up, and I'd have breakfast certainly within an hour of being up. If then I just chilled out and did some journaling, I would sit, I'd draw, I would write. I would maybe go outside. I would take my camera outside. Something I actually did, God, and I can't imagine myself ever doing it again, is I grew vegetables. Seriously, I grew vegetables. I grew like tomatoes. Well, that's kind of a fruit, isn't it? Okay. And I grew carrots, and I grew cucumbers, and I grew potatoes. What else did I grow? I don't know. I did all this planting and all this gardening, and it was the most bizarre thing in the world. And it actually really, really helped. And there's actually been research done now on how helpful gardening can be for people in recovery from mental health problems. So I did all of that. I got 3 rabbits. I had Andre, Emily and Sophie, so that kept me busy. And I would take them out in the garden, and obviously they needed caring and nurturing. That's another thing that has helped for numerous people, including me. Animals. Animals are there for you no matter what. When I come home, my pussycats are there for me. They are there to, you know, show me affection. They are there to come and hug me. They, you know, especially when you have animals like dogs as well. Louis, who I used to have, you know, it's company, and if you don't feel able to be with other people, it's something to distract you. And I think that that's the biggest thing with recovery, is the distraction. Okay, so if you can initially learn the distraction, I don't want you thinking that right early on in the beginning of your recovery that you have to understand all the reasons to why you're doing all the things you're doing. You need to actually get your behaviours under control So you need to be eating, you need to be keeping your food down, you need to be gaining weight if necessary, you need to be getting healthy, you need to be developing trusting friendships, relationships, people who you feel you can rely on, people who you know will be there for you. So if you're having a really crap day, you just have somebody to turn to. That's why I said animals, so some people don't feel able to let other people in. And then as that moves forward, as the weight went on for me, I had to continue to develop more coping mechanisms, because gaining weight was fucking hard work. It was just a nightmare. It was so difficult. And you have to continue to develop coping mechanisms. And then one of mine was to go back to university, which seems like a really big step. But what you'll find is, as you develop your coping mechanisms, doing something like a college course then actually becomes one, because it's getting you out of the house, it's getting you doing something you feel passionate about, and it's taking you outside of your eating disorder, it's getting you outside of your eating disorder head. Okay? And so then as that goes on, you might then get to a point where you can start to think, right, what is behind some of this? Why do I still have this hatred towards my body? Why do I still feel the need to do these things to myself? Why can I not feel the way other people say that they feel about me, or they think about me? And it's then about tackling those thoughts and feelings, understanding where they come from, and working through that for you to be able to maintain your recovery. So in kind of summary, my main sort of ways of coping are getting out of the house, or wherever you are that you want to use behaviours. Okay, get yourself out of a room, go and sit in a different room. Get yourself outside, maybe take a walk, have a walk that you do, have maybe a playlist that you listen to when you walk. If you drive, maybe get in your car, just go for a drive. Just go for a drive. We used to go to, my brother used to take me over the hill to one of my favourite places. Okay, get yourself online, get yourself distracted with something. If you're a more kind of calmer person and feel like able to draw, if you can sit and draw, paint, collage, take pictures, then do that. If you're in a place where you feel able to be with like family or friends, even if you don't talk about stuff, to do that. To then maybe start thinking ahead about doing a course of some sort, even if it's one night a week, just to get yourself back into doing things that distract you and take away. But in that time, I don't want you distracting yourself from getting better. I want those distraction tools to be to help you move forward. I don't want to be saying, oh, as a distraction to not eat, go and do all of this. I want you to sit down and have your dinner, okay, and then I want you to find means of coping with that, because if you're doing that and then you use a behaviour, you're not going to learn any other behaviours, like coping mechanisms that are healthy. Okay guys, I've kind of rambled on a little bit, and I hope I've made some sense, and they're just a few of the ideas that have come across to me and that I've used myself, and I will see you next week. Okay, bye!